morning. I'm Barry Silverberg, Director of the Center for Nonprofit Studies at Austin Community College, and I welcome you to Civil Society, where we explore issues affecting our communal well-being through a nonprofit lens. We're a very proud partner of ACC TV, but given COVID, we're going virtual for our fourth season. Our center is fully committed to being an anti-racist organization, to accelerating our personal learning journeys, confronting our biases and blind spots, and creating opportunities for others to do the same. This episode is part of our series on the Hispanic Latinx experience in Austin. This episode is part of a larger series on people of color's experiences in Austin. You can view our series on the Black experience in Austin at nonprofit Austin/civilsociety.org. My guest today is Julie Martinez I'm sorry, Julie.
That's all right.
She'll correct me when she gets on. The Executive Director of Manos de Cristo. A native Texan, she spent her formative years in Uvalde, Texas. An educator, Julie worked at the Uvalde ISD, moving to Austin in 1998, where she spent several years teaching in the Wynn and Oak Springs elementary schools in East Austin. Julie joined Manos de Cristo as program director in 2006 and very quickly became executive director in 2007. In her 13 years of leadership in that organization, she and her staff have tripled the size of the organization. Welcome, Julie, and I'm sorry about my messing up your name.
That's okay.
You can call me Silverman, okay? And we can be even, okay? So before we launch into any questions, tell us a little about yourself and why you're doing the work you're doing.
Well, I grew up in Uvalde, Texas, as you know, and came from a family where the neighborhood took care of each other. When I moved to Austin and I taught in East Austin, I saw the need in our community. And when I came to Manos de Cristo, it just gave me an opportunity to help the people that so desperately want to be more and to do more. And so my role has allowed me to help people by giving them a hand up.
So you spent a good number of years in the classroom.
I did.
Okay. So how did that practice, how did that affect your current practice? How does it impact or influence what you're doing?
So definitely, the things that I saw that really impact the work that I do is, I saw children coming to school, number one, that were still hungry when they got there because either their parents were working and didn't have time to feed or tend to their needs. And, some of the programs that we offer help continue to feed those children, help provide children with essentials for back to school. I also saw, people that were struggling to make ends meet, people that were working multiple jobs, and that had a great influence on, that people have to do so much to survive and to take care of their children, to take care of their family. And by the work that we do at Manos de Cristo, we're able to help people out of the cycle of poverty and encourage people to be more and to do more.
Talk a little bit about the caseload at Manos de Cristo.
Well, we serve 30,000 people a year through all of our programs, which is phenomenal.
Fantastic.
We, our dental program serves 18,000 people a year. We serve almost 1,000 people through our education programs, 2,000 people through our back to school programs, and over 10,000 people through our basic needs program. So it's a huge, 30,000 is a huge number considering
Absolutely.
we're not a very big staff. We're a small staff, but a very dedicated staff.
Very clearly, very clearly. So in terms of your own educational journey, okay, can you talk a little bit about that? I know you got your bachelor's degree from Sue Ross Grand College after you'd already been working.
Right.
After you were a duly certified adult with family responsibilities.
So it was very difficult. You're right. I was working with the school district. I had two children in school. Um, and I was offered the opportunity by the school district. I mean, it wasn't offered just to me, it was offered to all of the paraprofessionals in the district. Um, Out of the several hundred that had the opportunity, I think there was 6 of us that took the opportunity, and there were 2 of us that actually finished. So, and I say by providing, they reimbursed us for our tuition and our books upon completion. So, the first semester it was like, oh, how am I going to pay for this? But family support. I had a lot of family support, but it was definitely, you hit that point in your life where you can only go so far without that, without your education. And then it was important to me and important to my family as well that I continue with my studies.
So growing up in Uvalde, okay, we'll throw away all the bad memories. We'll just talk about the good memories, okay?
Okay.
Which on its website highlights, quote, "We are also at the crossroads of cultures, with our language and customs being a mix of Mexican, Spanish, English, and German elements." Okay. So what was life like growing up in Uvalde?
Well, I have a lot of pleasant memories, again, because of my family. I do remember, and this is something that has stuck with me for many years. So I was in the 3rd grade. One of my friends, we were playing on the playground, and one of my friends said something in Spanish. And the teacher's assistant that was on the playground with us heard her and punished her by making her kneel at the fence for about 30 minutes. I'll never forget that. But, and that time when I was growing up, you didn't speak Spanish at school. It was forbidden. And, that's just something that's always stuck in my mind. And that looking back as an adult, I'm like, oh my gosh. And we just all kept going. And I guess if she told her parents, it was just like, that was the way it was. That's the way it was. You didn't follow the rules, so you got in trouble.
Was there a sense of being oppressed? Was there a sense of of being looked down upon because you were Latino? Or
You know what, Barry? At the time that I lived there, I didn't see it. And so I think that's a lot of us. It's until you walk away and look back that you're like, another example is I was in high school and I was planning, to go to college, and talking with the counselor, and the counselor gearing Latinos towards, oh, you're not going to college, you don't need these classes, and things like, I mean, we went on it despite that. But I think about that, and I talk with friends that are older than I am, and that had the exact same experience. So I was like, okay, so this was going on for years, and we really didn't see it, and we really didn't even talk about it until recently.
so you're kind of in the midst of it, kind of like a fish in water. You're not even conscious of the water.
And I was fortunate in that I had 2 older siblings that were both college educated already. So I don't know why I was, it's interesting to me now when I look back. I'm like, well, did they think Latino women couldn't go to college, or, what was it? I don't understand. But we went on despite the recommendations of, you don't need those classes.
And we're all the beneficiary. So, so what was it like to transition to Austin? A very different place, I assume, than Uvalde, Texas.
A very different. So Uvalde, I refer to even now as the land where time stands still. Where I moved to Austin
At the crossroads.
At the crossroads. Yeah, I moved to Austin, and everybody it was so different. It was so different. Just going into the school district, and meeting a diverse group of people. That to me was completely different. In Uvalde, there's 2 colors of people, and that's all. So coming to Austin, and just, the diversity and the culture, and the opportunities to really be what you want to be is something that to me that Austin has offered to me. In Uvalde, I always felt like I was living in somebody's shadow. I guess because of my older siblings, whereas here I can, what I did on my own.
Well, that's important.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about Manos de Cristo in terms of its founding in 1988. Its focus was on dental care,
Right.
and it's grown considerably. So why the focus on dental care, and why is that important?
So in 1988, the planning for Manos de Cristo began, and the reason that it began is because people were going to a little church in East Austin and asking for baby food, and the pastor thought it was why do these adult men keep coming to my door and asking for baby food? Do they have that many children at home, or what is going on? So what they discovered was that these people had so many oral health problems and pain that was all that they could eat. And at that time, a lot of the little pop-up health clinics were going up in East Austin, but there was nothing for dental. And so that's where the dream and the thought of Manos de Cristo began, is that we can't let people continue to pull their own teeth in garages. So the dental clinic sprang up and, started with a couple of volunteers and donated equipment, and, then turned into a 4-chair dental clinic. Up until 2013, when we expanded to an 11-chair dental clinic. I think people forget that your mouth is part of your body. And if you don't take care of that, eventually it affects the rest of your body. And so it's so important. And if I could leave a message, and my legacy would be, is that people would remember your mouth is part of your body. Take care of it, because this is what can happen if you don't. I told the story multiple times of, if I take my dog to the vet, there's all kinds of signage about why I should get his teeth cleaned. But if I go to my medical doctor, there's nothing at all telling me to go to the dentist. And so, it's so important. And the work that we do here and that we're able to provide here at affordable prices is so that dental doesn't have to be a luxury.
So do you provide free services to people who can't afford it?
Every once in a while, we'll get a referral from a dental, or from a medical clinic saying this person needs care right now and they have no resources. So every once in a while, we do make those exceptions. But the majority of our patients are, people that have, again, people that have multiple jobs and are struggling to make ends meet. So our prices are affordable. We work with them and schedule their appointments on their, ability to pay. For example, if you need, 2 or 3 fillings, but you can only afford to pay for one at a time, we schedule your appointments that way.
So it began with a focus on the mouth,
Yes.
and then it started moving up to the brain and the stomach and
Absolutely.
wraparound services. Can you talk about that evolution?
Absolutely. So, with the dental clinic and the church, continued to see, people that were in need, people that needed help with, food and clothing, but also people that needed to learn to speak English. They had children in the schools, and they needed to be able to participate in our community and interact with their children's teachers and go to the doctor's office and ask questions. And so that the education program began from that premise, is that people continued to come, and the leadership at that time thought, okay, we can take care of these immediate needs, but we can also give you tools so that you can take care of those needs yourself.
And just grew from there.
And it continued to grow. It's really interesting. So with the education services, we started with just ESL. We then added computer literacy. When I came here, it was just the 2 programs. We then added citizenship classes, and then Spanish literacy classes. And then lastly, we've just started with GED in Spanish. So the education program has grown, and its reputation really, and the quality of the classes, I think, really have sustained it.
What particular challenges do you think you've had or your agency has had as a Latino, largely, I assume largely Latino serving entity
Right.
with obviously a Latino head. Do you feel you've been treated fairly by the various funders in this community?
You know,
What challenges have you had?
I think initially when we were smaller, there was the question of, what are you doing? Identify yourself, what's your message? But over the evolution of the organization, our messaging became clearer. Our the metrics, the measurements of the things that we were doing were also more available, and so we were able to show, yes, we're asking for funding, but these are our plans to do the things that we say we're going to do. And after the fact, here are the numbers and here are the reports that show you that we did exactly what we said we were going to do. So to answer your question, I think initially when the organization was smaller, definitely the challenges were bigger. And, the name Manos de Cristo, does that mean that you only serve Latinos? Well, no. I mean, it's like my last name is Ballesteros, but that doesn't mean I only speak Spanish, right? So it's kind of like really getting our message clear. These are the things that we do, and these are the people that we do it for. And so we have no, and our mission statement says that regardless of, ethnicity. So, and I think once the messaging became clearer, the funding and the funders were more attracted to the organization.
There are some Latino executives who feel that the funding system is prejudiced against them. And I was just wondering, without any particular funder in mind, because that would be catastrophic and suicidal, but do you feel that the funding environment is such that you get a fair deal in it?
I have felt that our staff does a really good job of explaining the needs of the organization. I have never felt, you're doing more for them than you are for us because of who we are. So in Austin, at least, I feel that we are treated equally.
I did notice on your website, much to your credit, that
Mhm.
it contains your annual reports, the 990 forms, and audited statements for the past 10 years. Um, uh, I don't make a habit of studying nonprofit websites necessarily, but it did strike me, the emphasis that the agency is clearly placing on transparency. Can you talk a
Absolutely.
little bit about that?
Yes. So, going back to the struggles that we had initially, and when I first came to Monos, was that there was not enough transparency, that people didn't know what we were doing or what we were doing with their dollars. And part of my goals, and actually going through our very first strategic plan years ago, was that we would put more emphasis on being transparent, that we would make sure that people had access to our annual reports, to our 990s, to everything. And, transparency to me is, I mean, with people, as with organizations, as with anybody, is key. People want to know that you are doing exactly what you say you're going to do with their dollars.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think it's very commendable. I mean, as I say, I haven't done a study of it, but it really struck me very strongly as I looked at your website. So obviously, given what you do, COVID has probably had a dramatic impact on what's going on. How has it impacted you?
And I'll have to take a minute because, I just clearly remember the day we left here on March 13th. One of our employees was getting married and everybody was happy. And as we were leaving, and then we came back that Monday and the whole world had changed.
Yep.
I had to take a moment, but
No, that's fine.
our employees, and I told them, we had our Thanksgiving lunch a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you all never blinked. We asked you to, some people we had to furlough, some people we had to cut their hours, but they never blinked. They never said, I'm not going to do that, or I don't want to come back. Our dental staff continued to see emergency patients, as because we're dental, we have to follow the recommendations of the CDC and the ADA. And so we were under very strict you can only do these things. But they continue to show up, 2 days a week, and never hesitated, and never came in a bad mood, and never said, we don't want to treat patients right now. We had to learn to deal with all the PPE. And, I've watched that dental staff with their multiple layers of, their N95s, their level threes, their face shields, their caps, and, just that big transition. And, so that slowed down. But then, when we were able to do more, we saw patients coming back. But we had to put so many systems that we had not budgeted for, so many things that, we just had to do. We put filtration systems in our air conditioning. We have oral air suction devices in the operatories. We have air purifiers throughout the building. We have, and then plus, as I said, all the extra PPE and all the, just all these things coming at you, and all these extra expenses coming at you all at once. It was very, very difficult. In the meantime, our education program, they had to completely recreate what they were doing. But they did. They took their program and they turned it into a virtual program, and are having great success with that. On the other side, on our basic needs side, we saw, where we were serving 200 to 300 people a month. In October, we served 1,400 people through our food pantry. And so it's just been topsy-turvy. What we thought was going to happen didn't happen. On the other hand, we saw our funders, we saw our supporters reach out and support the organizations in such grand gestures, that we were able to accomplish all those things.
That's very, very heartening.
Yes.
I mean, it speaks volumes both about your leadership as the agency and their loyalty to you and to the mission. That's fantastic.
It
Absolutely.
really was. Just watching it. And again, I commend the staff because they just kept going.
Yeah. So a different kind of question.
Okay.
So you're dealing with people, the agency is dealing with people with a lot of needs.
Mm-hmm.
And yet at the same time, you have limited resources. And you always see more that you could do, but you can't do it all. So how do you deal with that frustration as a agency executive, as a human being?
Well, and it does become very frustrating because it's like you want to be everything to everyone, but you can't. So that's where the partnerships with other agencies come in. It's like we do this, and we say, okay, we're not providing rent assistance, but this organization is. And so I think another thing that I have seen is that people sharing resources and making what they're doing available, so that we know what's going on. And when somebody comes to our door and says, I need assistance with rent, well, I know that, there were several people that helped with the rent. The city of Austin did something, but still ongoing. I mean, that was done and done, ongoing. We have several churches that we know help with rent assistance. And so it's frustrating again, because we can't do it all. There's the most frustrating thing to me. I saw a young man that came to our door and he said, I've never had to ask for help. But he went from one day to the next to where he was unemployed. Well, he came and he had an apartment, and 3 months later he was living in his car. And, how do you can't fix everything. So we're, giving him all the information that we have, trying to, and then, just hoping, and he hasn't been back. So we're hoping that he got back on his feet and that he's working somewhere else.
Yeah. That's always been the toughest part, no matter what my job is, when you have limited resources and you have somebody requesting something you'd like to give them and you just can't.
Right. So, just having community partners that will share this is what we're doing, I think in this time has been very valuable.
So if you were talking to somebody who knew nothing about your agency, all right,
Mhm.
what are the most important things you want the general public to know about Manos de Cristo?
Okay. So we take care of your whole being, your health, because your mouth is part of your body. We take care of you in times of need. If you are, because we've had this before, I think people think it's systemic, people continue to come for the food pantry, but especially during these times, we've had people that are just short of a few days to payday. I just need a little bit of help. We can help you with that. And then help yourself, get those education classes, take the citizenship classes if you're able to, if you qualify, uh, become the whole person. And then, just remember to continue doing those things, always learning, always uh, taking care of your physical self, taking care of your mental self.
So let's reflect about a little bit about Julie. Okay. So knowing what you know today, what would you say to your younger self? The girl growing up in Uvalde, the girl looking at the what the teacher did to that, I don't remember if it was a boy or girl.
Mhm.
Um, what would you say to your younger self about your future? And what do you wish you had known?
I wish I'd known that things happen for a reason. Usually they're learning experiences. Um, you always need to keep faith, and then that things don't always happen in your time. We like to hurry things along. I know, especially my younger self wanted to hurry through life. Uh, I think taking time to look at things around you and notice the people around you, and to always be kind, to always be kind. I think my younger self probably wasn't as kind as my older self, but I hope that
None
I've
of our younger selves are.
no, we're very egocentric. So I hope I've let go of all of that. But I think my biggest thing, and something that I really try to just really relate to the staff, is always be kind. You don't know other people's circumstances. Don't be judgmental.
So if you were talking to a younger person,
Hmm.
and this may be sort of the same, I'm not sure.
Right.
What lessons do you feel you've learned, that hard-earned wisdom, school of life, all that sort of stuff,
Mhm.
that you'd like to share with folks who might see you as a role model?
Take time to listen. Take and really, I this is something that I have learned, and people that know me will agree. I take time to listen, and then I think about what I'm going to reply before I reply. Uh, and then I really try to reply with my heart, not just with my head. So that to me is one of the most important things in being a leader, is listen to what's going on around you, listen to your employees, listen to your constituents, and then listen to the people that are supporting you, because it's all of those uh, towers that will hold you up. And then, be loyal, be true, one of the, goes back to the four agreements, is be impeccable with your word.
And where do you get that from? What do you think? What do you think? Where those values just mentioned? Where do they derive from?
A lot of it is life experience, but
Yep.
a lot of it is also, that's who my family is. That's the values that my mother, my parents placed on, always being a good neighbor, uh, always being kind to others, just the modeling of that type of behavior, for sure.
And who are your mentors besides your parents? I'm assuming your parents were part of that.
Absolutely. And I thought about this long and hard, because I think in different parts of your life, you look up to different types of people or different kinds
Yep.
of people. So, and they all contribute to the person that you become. So, obviously, as you said, growing up, my parents and my brother were definitely huge influences. But when I went back to school, I was working for the school district, and my mentor was Dr. Noe Salceda, who saw a potential in me that I didn't see in myself. And he kept giving me these assignments that were harder and more than I thought I could handle. But yet I rose up to every challenge. And so, sometimes even now I think back about that. He really took me out of my comfort zone and, gave me the belief in myself that I really needed to have. So he was definitely a huge influencer. Um, and then when I was teaching with AISD, Gilbert Hicks, who was my principal at the time, also, he just kept giving me these leadership roles that I was like, there's people on this campus that are also capable, but he saw something and he saw some type of leadership quality in me that I didn't see in myself. And I think when I came to Manos, it all of those things together, made me the person that I am today. And even now, I'm of the type that you never stop learning, and there's always people who are going to help you become better. And I've have had board chairs and board members that really have just help me become a more rounded person, and help me with some of the weaknesses that I see in myself, is to help me understand why I think that way. And it's just been wonderful to have such amazing people around me.
As you said, you're open to learning.
Always, when I was teaching, I heard that, and I don't remember the name of the person, but there was a line that she said that I'll never forget. It's like, you always want to be green and growing, not ripe and rotting. So I really take that to heart.
But we also have to remember what Kermit said, which was, "It's hard to be green." So there's always the other side of the coin.
That's true.
So you spent many years in the classroom.
Yes.
What was it like in the classroom?
I remember my very first year in the classroom. First of all, we had to like go get furniture from the warehouse because the classroom wasn't ready. And I remember just loading up trucks up with things and trying to set things up. And then really, the children. So when I started teaching, I taught kindergarten, and I felt like I was, outside of the teacher, I was also kind of a mom, and I was also a caregiver. And just the memories of all those children that, a lot of them really did just need love, and a lot of them did need care. I had specific students that I remember. One of them, he was a child from a family of 9 children. He said, "Just take me home with you, please adopt me. My mom's not going to miss me anyway."
How
And
sad. Yeah.
I'm sure that she will, but it's things like that where you're just it's so phenomenal. The children really teach you uh, to 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 be kind, to be compassionate, to be patient, and then also, bringing out the best in each child, because I believe that all children can learn and that all children have their strengths.
Yeah. Well, you're just glowing as you're saying that. So,
Yes,
I mean, your heart is on your face.
definitely.
So we just got a question from one of our viewers,
Hmm.
which is very different than the line of questioning we're following right now, but I'll ask, what kind of collaborations are the best ones among nonprofits and between nonprofits and business? And I would add, when you look at a collaboration, what criteria go through your head as to whether it's good for Manos de Cristos or not good for you?
Well, I think number one, you have to have the same values system. Your missions and your visions have to be similar. They're not exact, obviously, because you don't want to duplicate efforts. But are you serving in the same way? Are you treating people in the same way? And I think a lot of that it's more about actions than it is about words. Um, but you really have to match the who are you serving and why are you serving and how are you going to do it. Really have to align.
Have you ever found yourself rejecting a collaboration because of lack of value connections?
There are, yes. There's some
We'll
things.
leave it at that.
It's just not a good fit.
Is there anything else you'd like that I haven't asked you that you'd like to share?
You know, we've just been through so much in the last few months. And it just really makes me grateful to be in Austin, to be in a community where people understand that, you know, there are people that need help and that there's so many people that are kind and willing to help. It's been amazing to me just to watch this city just lift us up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie, your compassion comes through. I mean, the fact your staff operated in the way that it did during this crisis really speaks to them and to their relationship with you, and I think that's phenomenal.
Thank
One
you.
of our viewers just texted or in the chat, "Thank you, impressive leadership."
Thank
So,
you.
thank you.
I
And that's
invite
the
any of you
way-
to come by and visit
When we can, we will.
with your mask. Masked up.
Always.
Always, yes.
Julie, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And thank you all who are watching and participating in civil society. And especially thank you to Kate Tolliver, our managing producer, for her support. You can read more about Julie Ballesteros and Manos de Cristo on our website, the issues we just discussed, and view previous and future episodes of Civil Society at nonprofitaustin.org/civil-society. Julie, have a great day. Everybody on here, have a great day and be safe. Thank you for participating.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.